Please note that this meeting is being held in person at the Livingston Center, 224 East Livingston. We'll also have remote participation available. If in person, a face covering is required. Remote participation, this is an opportunity for the public to provide public comment for the presiding officer. The public comments must comply with Ordinance 2014-02 and be limited to 5 minutes or less. At this time, members of the public are able to attend public meetings by web conference and to submit public comment by email, voicemail, or through web conference. Is there anyone online, Jim? Moving on to item 3, consent agenda. Approval of documents and action items is listed. Claims report, claims dated October 14, 2020 through October 26, 2020. Meeting minutes. City Council meeting minutes, October 13, 2020. City Council closed session meeting minutes, October 13, 2020. City Council study session meetings minutes, October 13, 2020. Budget report, September 2020. And Treasurer's report, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? Hearing or seeing none, can I have a roll call, please, Jill?
Mr. Ferris?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Coon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to the mayor's report. Council, please consider attending the chamber ribbon cutting for Tractor Supply Company next Friday, November 6th, from 5 to 8 p.m. Downtown Monticello businesses will be hosting the Fall Boutique Bash on Sunday, November 1st from 1 to 4. Get started on holiday shopping and visit this scaled back event this year. They're scaled back this year. Event featuring storefronts and pop-up businesses. Please wear a mask and practice social distancing. Congratulations to the following Monticello businesses and organizations for placing in the News Gazette's People's Choice Awards. Hatfield Book Company, Allerton Park and Retreat Center, Monticello Railroad Museum, Rick Ridings Ford, Just Be a Kai, Pies by Ingy, Brown Bag, Audubell Hearing Aid Center, Madtex Cooling, Heating and Plumbing, Pratt Home Improvement, Illini Overhead Door, Fieldhouse 219, Kelly's Accounting Service, Willow Tree Missions, and our very own Monticello Family Aquatic Center. For your information, there are 36 businesses in Monticello, Cisco, and Bement that are actively hiring full and part-time positions. Let's move on now to public hearing for the ITEP grant. Callie Jo?
Thank you. As you remember or recall from the last meeting, council gave permission for the city to engage with Chastain and Associates to assist the city with an application for Illinois Department of Transportation's Illinois Transportation Enhancement Program, which would fund a streetscape. But funded our first streetscape, and we've done several legs since then. Our first grant was received in 2000, so we have a long history of kind of momentum as it relates to downtown enhancement. This particular grant, which would be the 14th round, I believe, is an extension of the streetscape lighting, trees, and sidewalk from Market Street to Park of Washington Street, so it's further down to where it tees. And then also a pedestrian pathway through the Pepsin site and Reader site from Washington up to just short of that curve under the road. Because the grant is funded through federal dollars and a pass-through through the state, we're required to hold a public hearing. There you go.
That's it. Are there any comments? Anyone online, Jim? Any public comments?
No, Mayor.
Any public comments live? Is there a motion to come out of the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions before we vote? Gil?
Mr. Fricks?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Coon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Resolution 2020-49. Resolution authorizing an application to the Illinois Department of Transportation's Transportation Enhancement Program, ITEP, for pedestrian bicycle facilities. Yeah, Caljo?
Thank you, Mayor. Based upon the project I just described, part of the process is the city council needs to pass a resolution saying if awarded, they would commit 20%, which would be our share of the grant of the project for when it actually carries out. So again, it's reimbursable of 80%. If the project is awarded, which would be announced this coming spring, we'd be doing the engineering and bidding and so forth in 21. Construction would be in 2022. That's because of the timeliness of this, and the grant will be applied for this week. It has to be turned in. Staff recommends that the council discuss and approve resolution 2020-49.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve resolution 2020-49?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Just out of curiosity, what is our 20%?
The grant initial kind of preliminary estimates were about 700,000 total project. They're tightened it down a little bit, and it's about, I think it'll be less than that. So it'll be 20% of whatever that range is.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Hearing or seeing none? Jill?
Mr. Fricks?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Mr. Coon?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to resolution 2020-50. Resolution authorizing the execution of the IMLRMA minimum maximum contribution agreement. Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just an annual renewal we do every year. This resolution renews the city liability and workers' compensation coverage. Calendar year 2020, the $183,874.68 premium reflects a 0% increase and takes advantage of the min-max program and a 1% early pay discount. It's recommended the city council discuss and approve resolution 2020-50 as submitted. I believe this would be for 2021.
Okay, any comments or questions? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2020-50? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Again, I'll ask, any comments or questions? Hearing, seeing none. Jill?
Mr. Fricks?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Ms. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Mr. Burris?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to fiscal year 2021 budget discussion only. Terry Summers.
Mr. Mayor, printed everybody off a new budget document. These microphones are very sensitive. Everybody's flipping a bunch of pages. We may need to pause for a second. First and foremost, again, I'd like to thank the city council and all the members that took time out of their busy schedules to meet with staff and myself. Those meetings are great help in preparing the budget. And then this budget document cannot be done without the help of city staff, department heads, and operators. There's a few here tonight: Jill Potts, Kelly Jo McFarland, Brett Baker, Carlos McClellan, Mindy Condis, and Jim Gabarzik. So without their assistance, this budget document would not be in the state that it is tonight for you folks. And then real quick to go over where we are tonight. Tuesday, October 13th, we had a budget study session and covered general fund revenue, administration, police, fire and rescue expenses. So we should be able to start on page 7 of the documents in front of you. So tonight, if possible, I'd like to cover Public Works, the Monticello Family Aquatic Center, Parks and Recreation, capital improvements, water and wastewater, motor fuel tax issue, and business district, if possible. And then to go back over the schedule, this would lead into additional discussions if warranted on November 9th. And then we could adopt the budget either November 9th or November 24th and hold the truth and taxation resolution on November 9th. So, any questions so far? Okay. Page 7. And the document in front of you goes over the historical period from 2015 and then all the way up to the forecast of 2025. So the print is a little bit smaller. So on page 7 starts Public Works. And I'll just go over line items that have had a little bit of change, and we can go over anything that it comes to question from you folks. On line 358, equipment rental, the guys are wanting to rent a side mower and brush cutter twice every other year and then once every other year. So you'll see $8,000 in 2021, $5,000 in 22, back up to $8,000 in 23. Those pieces of equipment that we rent or we would like to rent assist in cleaning our trails and in roadways and such. The township can assist with us, and they have in the past, but we're kind of at their beck and call, and then they're kind of busy when we need to borrow their side boom mower. So this will expedite our efforts in cleaning those paths and whatnot.
Hey, Terry, on that, who do we rent that from?
There's a couple of different outfits that do it. There's a Woody's, municipal supply. They have one, Kemper has one. There's several places around that rent.
Any idea how much like one or two of those items might actually cost outright or used by any chance?
The township just bought recently. It was right around $150,000.
Okay.
The thing is, even though it's just it seems like it's an attachment to a tractor, you have to attach it to a tractor.
Right.
So you have a tractor.
Tractor, yeah.
So it comes with the machine is the cost.
Thank you.
Next item down is line 372. You'll notice on computer maintenance and repairs, again, as we discussed, a lot of departments, we have a schedule for computer replacements. That line item is scheduled for beautification computer in FY21, a computer public works director in 23, and then a public works office computer for all the guys in 2024. On line 373, as we discussed, this server needs the hardware update, and that cost is shared by all departments. So you'll see Public Works contributing, and that's that increase to $5,000 in 2021. And then the next line item I have highlighted is line 384. You'll notice landscape waste disposal. Those numbers are 20,000 for the last couple of years, and then it jumps all the way down to 5,000 in 2021. That is due to, on a page or two later, we would like to buy a air burner for the green waste facility and get a loan and make payments towards that. I think this year that might come in at roughly just shy of $30,000 for the grinding of the green waste vegetation out there. It keeps going up every year. So we would be money ahead. I think the annual payments are about $30,000 if we were to buy that air burner. And that would be paid off over about a 5-year term. So the $5,000 is just for some rock, whatever we might need to place this air burner and maintain the air burner.
Can I ask a question? If we get this air burner, that's going to take care of getting rid of that pile out there every year? Because it seems like now it never goes down. Somebody's not using it like they used to, I guess.
No. So that pile has increased every year since we have not been able to use the old gravel quarry, Pit Park.
Yeah, right.
Bridge was condemned by IDOT after they gave it to us.
It's been keeping my golf balls in play on the driving range.
Well, I understand that.
I slice, okay, never mind.
It's a dangerous game, John.
Very dangerous.
So every year we spend $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 grinding, paying an outfit to come in January when the earth is frozen to grind all that up into mulch. And then we spend 4 or 5 guys over a 2-week period hauling the mulch from where it's deposited there out to the landfill cap, which IEPA will allow us to do. Before, there was a farmer or two that would use that mulch for cattle bedding. They're no longer needing that. They're no longer in business. So it's just a pile of mulch that nobody really wants to put in their garden.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So with the air burner, I guess we'll get to it later, but the air burner, what really needs to happen is we're going to have to order that thing fairly quickly to get it here in January, February of next year. We anticipate approximately a 2-man crew that once you start the air burner, you need to run the air burner until everything's going and then shut the air burner down. So we'll be could be running possibly up to 3 shifts for, a week, 10-day, 2-week period to dispose of all that. And then the leftover ash is, it'll fit in the bed of one of our 1-ton trucks. The result is, right? So that's the plan of action as we move forward.
This environmentally friendly? Is it going to smoke?
Yeah, so good question. It runs at a temperature of nearly 2,000 degrees. So once you start it, there'll be a little bit of smoke, but then you just keep feeding that and it runs at such a temperature that it's almost smokeless.
Who close by has one of these units?
Jim went over and looked at a smaller unit, St. Joe has, and they use it to a lesser degree than what we would be using it. Ours is going to be a little bit bigger than theirs. Theirs is more mobile than ours. Jim went over and looked at their operation, I don't know, a month or 2 ago.
Yeah, that's right. They've had it about 6 months and was able to observe them doing it, how quickly they could actually process the brush as they were bringing it in. His one wish is that he had a larger size so they could minimize the amount of time they spend out there doing it. Because it's
We don't know of anybody that's had one for longer than that. I'm thinking 2 or 3 years, 4 years. If you fire this up and run it that hot, there's got to be some maintenance somewhere. You burn things up at 25 or 2,000 degrees. There got to be the burner's got to be replaced. Something's got to be somewhere down the line. You got to spend some money somewhere. I don't know if you.
there's no actual mechanical burning to it, Wendell. It just has, it's like it's a giant fan that blows air across a firebox. So it's a firebox like a fireplace. So there will be maintenance on the firewalls. It's surrounded basically, if you picture a ceramic firewall. It literally just blows the air, and it swirls and comes to this motion and creates it at such a high temperature that actual fuel that's put in there is a wood burn. And it has a 98%, like Terry's saying, 98% waste reduction. And the only thing that comes out is heat. So you're right, there is maintenance interval, and we've accounted for that, but it's not really in it's not in the mechanics of that, it's just a lower grease.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Anything else on page 7? Public Works continues on page 8. We just talked about air burner that's on line 407, secure the loan in 2021, and make those payments off in FY 2026. Going back up to line 400, you'll see in proposed FY 22 and FY 23, 15 and 20,000 respectfully. That's for forklift purchase in FY 22 that we can use, and then pallet racking for the Public Works shop area, and then some pallet racking out at the driving range so we can store what we need to store more efficiently. So that's proposed for FY 22 and FY 23. On line 401, dump truck. That's for one of the new dump trucks that we need to be paid off in FY 2026. And that will be 16,000 out of Public Works, 4,000 out of water, and 4,000 out of sewer. So you'll see the 16,000 reflected in the Public Works. You'll see later the 4,000 out of the water account, 4,000 out of the sewer account. And it's justified to break that up because that dump truck goes out, water main break, concrete, the spoils, concrete, everything that water main break needs to be hauled off. The dump truck will be used for that, and the same thing with any sewer repair. Line 405, just note the loader and backhoes, the final payment, $48,625 will be in FY 22. And then we're in dire need of a new truck, an F-350 for the concrete crew to utilize to make their lives easier. The truck they're currently using, I think it's fair to say, is on its last leg. We're going to try to get another year out of it. So we're proposing in FY 22 to purchase that concrete truck 350. And I think that will be spread out as well. I think 30,000 here, 10,000 in sewer and 10,000 in water. Basically the same reason. The concrete crew goes out and patches any water main break that has a concrete road, and sewer and so on and so forth. Those were the line items on page 8 that I specifically want to discuss. Is there any questions on page 8?
Do we not lease the Gator anymore? Do we own it, or do we not use it?
The Gator, the last payment was in 2018.
Do we now own it?
Yep.
That's ours.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this page?
Okay. On page 9, recreation, aquatic center. The revenue side, you'll see an increase, starting in this year and then continuing on out on family passes, individual passes, swim lessons, so on and so forth. That is a direct reflection from the state unfunded mandate of minimum wage increase of $1 each year that culminates in $15 an hour in fiscal year 2025. So we have no other choice but to increase, the passes for that facility. That is a huge minimum wage, predominant labor force out there. I don't know how many lifeguards, concessions, seasonal help is what that number is off the top of your head. So there's 40 seasonal help out there. So you'll see those reflected to increase that 6 or 7% each year. Salaries, obviously you see a jump in salaries, and that's partly due to that $1 a year each year through 2025. Everything else really there wasn't much adjustments or changes in anything else that I could see on page 9 on the aquatic center.
What's the bottom line from the effect of COVID for this year? And just thinking that we don't know when we're going to be out of this. If this extends into 2021, how does that affect this part of the budget?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna look at it the exact same way that we did in 2020, to be honest with you, that we've sat down and talked about it. We're going to go through the beginning of FY21 anticipating that we're going to have some sort of recreational program. And, I think it's been very clear, we're not going to go out and spend a bunch of money on soccer and football that's in the fall, on helmets and jerseys or pants or pads or whatever, but we're going to gear towards, at some point in time, we're going to be conducting recreational activities in 2021 with the understanding that that may not come to fruition.
I'm thinking specifically of the aquatic center. The fact that it was closed all this year.
Well, I think it'd be similar to what you probably see this year in the budget report. There's no revenues and there's very little expenses.
Right.
Just
Zeroed out.
zeroed out, really, yeah.
Anyone else?
Nothing else on page 9? Page 10, Recreation Department programs only. Again, to comment on the revenues, you'll see some increases there, and that's, again, reflects the prevailing wage pay increases for umpires, concessions, and all of Carlos's seasonal help to make those programs work. Line 521, we are going to try to put some movies back on the budget. This is just a wash. You'll see $2,000 in revenue. A little bit later on, in the movies, you'll see $2,000 out in expenditures. We're hoping to get, obviously, some activities in downtown, just like we did this year with the parklets. If we need the parklets again next year, maybe we can do some movies outside to get some activity downtown. On line 544, you'll see Mindy's going to needs a Chromebook in fiscal year 21, and then desktop replacement for Mindy in FY23. That's why you see a little bit of an increase in that line item in 21 and 23. Everything else wasn't much of an increase or decrease.
We purchased, I think, a remote concession trailer, whatever. Do we anticipate that helping in revenue?
Absolutely. And that's a good point, Alderman Kuhn. That trailer was purchased this year, and the intent is to use that predominantly at the only fields that we own out at the landfill. And then I think it could be utilized maybe at the football games and soccer.
That's where the approved revenue went from 8,400 in fiscal year 2019 to 15,000, which was supposed to be this year. That's where that came from.
Yeah. Yeah, right now there's nothing at the T-ball peanut leagues out there.
Right.
Landfill. Good question. Anything else on page 10?
How many hot dogs would we have to sell from that mobile concession to raise 10 million for the extra, do you know? Oh, dang. I was just trying to think outside the bun here. That's all.
And Joey Chestnut, John Trent. Page 11, recreation continued. On line 571, you will see that $2,000 outdoor movie program reflected in the expenditures. That's about all I have of special note on page 11 on rec. Any questions on page 11?
We're anticipating having somebody donate those movies, is that correct? Like we've done it.
Paid for one and then.
Right, well, I didn't think so, but I just was,
We always have a generous
yeah,
sponsor.
right. We have angels in town, I know.
Yep. Moving on to page 12, general fund capital improvements. Maybe this would be a good spot. We're still looking at the forecasted years out from 22, 3, 4, and 5 to get those years out kind of dialed in. So some of the forecasted numbers may be revised to reflect some other things that we would like to do, what we can do, what we need to do. So I anticipate going through this tonight, and then the next time we meet to discuss budget, I would only discuss specifics about anything that has changed from tonight's meeting. Any additional line item or any change to any figure, I would bring that to your attention specifically, maybe at that first meeting in November. So I guess starting out on the line after 665, 15,000 for the Burnside and Raymond Road drainage project. We did not get to that this year. That's an open ditch in Bear Park. It's the where everything drains in Bear Park and then goes from this corner across the road to the dog park side into the dry detention basin. Erosion has almost destroyed. It has destroyed the ditch there. The edge of pavement's compromised. There's a utility pole there that's extremely compromised. So we'd like to do that in 21. Line 672, Foxfield cul-de-sacs, Burdette Court, Valera Court, and Corrine Court. We'd like to do those pavement rehabilitation projects. We did the main road, Edwards Street, several years ago. So I'd like to do those maybe in 22, do one, do another in 23, and another one in 24. Line 682, Crestview Drive and Crestview Court cul-de-sacs. Those are now concrete curb and gutter with oil and chip pavement. You can, if you want to see what a garbage truck, a waste hauler truck does to a cul-de-sac street, go look at these two cul-de-sacs, and it is quite evident the damage a waste hauler truck can do. So we tried to patch. I think right now it's just got some road pack CA6 rock in it. We can't get anything to hold. We've excavated down and put 3-inch rock and built it back up. And it's just in the center where one of their axles, it just sits and spins. It doesn't move, it just rotates on itself. So the only thing that we can do that is going to hold up over time is concrete. In the cul-de-sac itself, $30,000, and that's for material only, installed by the Public Works Department. Line 704, the Public Works building additions, or 705, $62,150. And I think that is through, I think that ends in fiscal year 2028 would be the last payment for that. And right now I'm line 706. I've got, like we've talked about earlier this year, and then what we talked about at the committee meetings, the space needs for City Hall, the space needs for the police department, and the space needs for the fire department have not gone away. So I'd like to propose a $40,000 feasibility study in fiscal year 22. And the $40,000 feasibility study, I'm proposing because of interest from the council that the study includes existing City Hall, 210 North Hamilton Street, some renovation, some addition to that building. The community building, there was some interest on the community building earlier this year. This building here, is there something that can be done with the Livingston Center? And then maybe a brand new building occupying some form or some space and take away the Livingston Center and the existing City Hall. The one thing with the Livingston Center, if you recall, there's a covered ditch, a large tile, drainage storm tile, literally right outside this wall. So you cannot build, expand to the north on this building at all. And obviously there's a street right there. So, and then based upon the feasibility study, I've got some figures in there of $130,000 for some sort of a loan. If council so desires to go down one of those paths that we'll talk about from the study. Does that make sense on the feasibility study, City Hall, police, fire?
Before we proceed with that, and I guess it's not cut and dried right now. I hope it's not, because I would sure like to talk about the community building another time. I have some strong feelings about that.
Yeah, I think there was some interest and not interest from folks. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of put it off to 22. But we can talk about that in more detail.
These other street projects that are listed up here at the top coming in, and I know we have several. When I look at some of those, we're missing one, or I'm missing one here right down the street west of here. Is there a plan already in place that I don't know about for Livingston Street there by Subway? That's a bad situation.
Yeah, I've got in motor fuel tax later on.
For that.
Something for that.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Anything else on page 12?
The bike trail piece that is in for this fiscal year, does that happen, or what's the?
Bike trail east, Cannon,
Yeah, line 687.
that we sealed. We did seal that bike path.
Okay.
And to your point, Alderman, the downtown alley.
It says Buchanan to Chase. Is that, where is that?
The Buchanan to Chase, we haven't done. That's this one that goes from, the other side of Nick's Park
Right.
up to Chase Street. The issue,
But that's what that 8,000 is under. That's my question is.
it should be the Prairie bike path from Grant to Cemetery Road we did this year.
Okay, but that's not Buchanan, because the 8,000 was under that Buchanan to Chase. That's my question.
But that shouldn't have been on that one.
But there is a plan to do that at some point, right?
There is a plan to do that. The issue is the intersection with Chase and Center Street and the railroad, Monticello Railway Museum line.
Right.
That is an elevation challenge that's very difficult to overcome.
Okay.
And then,
Because we don't have it in here, the rest, there's a line item, but so there's a plan down the road, but we haven't allocated any.
yeah, if we can look at that and try to make that happen in one of these forecasted years.
Well, I think if we get this grant and we're able to do the Pepsin, it would be nice to kind of link everything together. At some point.
Okay. I will look at that and put a number out here in one of these forecasted years then.
Okay.
Okay. When I say I'll look at that, Brett Baker will look at that.
I think there's some interest in trying to get that done, but it makes sense
No,
financially.
that's a good point. Anything else? So on page 13, everything's said and done through the general fund. You can see that right now we're projected to be almost 137,000 in the red, 2021. And then you can see even projected out some red numbers continuing, and then we come out of them in FY25. So maybe that bike path is in 2025 project or something, yep. Page 14, waterworks. Water revenue, again, on line 787, that reflects a 4% increase annually. As per council's ordinance back whenever that was passed. On line 824, operator Scott Bailey, he's due for a computer replacement in fiscal year 25. You'll see the water department on line 825 contributing to the hardware server replacement. We talked about earlier, all departments are contributing to that server replacement. Line 826, maintenance plant. Scott's done a great job keeping that plant up and running, and he's got a lot of good ideas to rehab some of the things over there. Right now he's looking at fiscal year 23, replacing a high service pump 5. FY24, replace treatment pump number 2. FY25, replace treatment pump 1. So whenever, and he's got on the next page or two, work on this elevated water storage tank at Nick's Park. So when we're done, everything at that water plant and this tower are going to be in very good shape as we move on into the future. So we'll be in good shape with the water plant, just like we're going to be in excellent shape with the wastewater treatment plant. And then the civic upgrade on line 827. That's the civic program that we do the water billing out of, and the civic system needs updated. We have no choice but to update that system to today's standards. So you'll see that reflected in water and wastewater. And then line 830, we talked about that, I think, a little bit at the last meeting. Meter replacement program, 35,000 comes out of water and 35,000 comes out of wastewater. I think we're still in line to get that program, those new remote meters. Hopefully those will be completely installed by FY 2029. But the guys are doing a great job replacing those meters. And we're doing it in such a manner that we're fixing, when a meter fails, it slows down. It doesn't speed up. So when the meter slows down, we're losing money. So when we see something like that, we replace that one with a new meter. And we've kind of done it on a hit and miss, certain locations for certain reasons. So the guys are doing a great job replacing those water meters. It helps both water and wastewater, obviously. Anything on page 14?
How do you know if you get a new meter? No, the resident probably never knows, right?
I think
I know, my water bill. I mean, I just wondered if they knew.
Just kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like a rubbery type.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's one way I know.
Hi.
And I assume the new homes that are being built, those new meters are being used in those, right? I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, any new construction is getting one.
we try to inform the homeowner because then you can look at it remotely. Yeah, you can get online and check it.
Do not take a shower for 2 weeks. Oh, my goodness.
Any other questions on page 14? Okay. Page 15, waterworks continuing. You'll see on line 851, the dump truck we talked about earlier, securing the loan next year, and then $4,000 from water. You'll see another $4,000 later from wastewater contributing to that. And then the F450 or 350, it should be 350 truck for the concrete crew. I think Public Works was on the hook for 30,000, and then water for 10 and wastewater for 10. So that's shown in fiscal year 22. And then, as I briefly mentioned on line 868, the elevated storage tank rehab at Nix Park, secure the loan in FY22, and start payments on that of $65,000.
Where are you getting the truck? Here locally, I'm assuming the 350?
We always try to spread the wealth between our friends at Bill Abbott's and our friends at Rick Writing.
Okay.
Since that's an F-350, that's right.
Probably going to Rick Writings. And Writings has the state bid on the Fords anyway. So he honors the state bid on that.
Sweet.
Any other questions? Page 15. So that ends water. Wastewater sanitation fund. On line 904, you'll notice from FY20, $50,000 for chemicals drops all the way down to $15,000 and $15,000 on out through the forecast. That was the new plant, and we anticipated spending $50,000 on alum. The guys have been diligent in that new plant and the processes involved in it, the oxidation ditch and others, that we've found we don't need that amount of alum. We haven't needed it yet. As conditions change, weather cools, heats, as things change, we anticipated we might need that this year, but we have not needed it much at all to date. It's got a shelf life, so we're not going to buy, we're not anticipating spending 50,000 like we did this year. Line 917. You'll see the additional $2,000 for the server update. On line 918, the operator is in need of a computer and proposed for FY24. On line 919, you'll see the sewers contribution to the Civic upgrade of $4,000. And then obviously on line 924, the sewers portion of those new meter installs of $35,000 annually. So that's the short and sweet of page 16.
Something's relatively new. Explain 888, what that was. Of course, that revenue goes away next fiscal year.
Oh, Maura would be the one to answer that question, and she was unable to be here tonight. I think, Tim, can you speak to that?
What was the 88?
Wastewater treatment plant.
The RD loan goes away after this year. I think
Is it $30,000 a year?
760,000 in FY20.
No.
Revenues?
As it was, yeah, it's revenue.
So that was the last draw we took on the loan.
Okay,
That's what was remaining. So we take it as revenue and then we pay it.
Yeah, expenses.
I see. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So the
Wastewater
loan's
treatment.
done.
Just a paperwork.
It's a,
Yeah, the balance is the sheet. So we took the loan, they gave it to us as we needed it. That's the rest.
Okay, gotcha.
Anything else on page 16? Sanitary sewer continuing on 17, 949. Should be F350, $10,000. On line 938, the jet vac, the last payment, $28,100. That last payment will be in FY22. Line 958, maintenance collection system. As you recall, we've spent $100,000 on lining sewer mains and manholes. This year, we'd like to do an actual collection system report and survey and see how things are acting today in all kinds of conditions, whether it's in a large storm event, it's dry conditions. That study is also part of the consent decree that was handed down by IEPA. So we're in a position with everything we've done to date that we'd like to go ahead and perform that study by a consultant this coming year, and then get back on actual collection system slip lining, and then add a little bit more on the manhole lining in FY22. That's why it went up from 100 to 150,000 in FY22. That's all I have on page 17. Page 18, motor fuel tax. You'll see there is an increase in line 1028, an increase in revenues. Obviously, that's from the increased gas tax as well as the Rebuild Illinois program. They've estimated we get $365,000 through FY 2023 for Rebuild Illinois. And we have a certain time frame. I think FY 2025, we have to have that money spent by, because it is Rebuild Illinois, obviously. On line 1034, you'll notice a pretty substantial increase to the oil and chip program, $375,000. We got some new figures and some things have changed. That's for the County Farm Road and Fissler Road pavement rehab, if you will, what we're wanting to do from the corporate limits on County Farm Road, from the corporate limits to Bridge Street, and then jump across Bridge Street and get Fissler Road from Bridge Street all the way around to Route 47. Those two pieces of road are in dire need of a lot of work. We think and we believe, and the engineer has expressed that we can do what's called a cold milling or a cold mix pavement, and it involves a paver. So they'll run this mix through the paver. It will help recreate the crown. It will smooth everything out. And then you come back after this cold mix is applied and sets for a couple of weeks. Then you go over it with your seal coat oil and chip operation. So we'll have to do some shoulder work. We'll have to do some pavement patching prior to this cold mix. They'll come in, contractor will lay this material out in a uniform layer. Then they'll come back and they'll do the seal coat operations over it. It is our understanding and anticipation that this will obviously improve the road surface, but it will get us down the road for a long time. It should hold up very well.
Will it widen the street?
We are not planning on widening County Farm Road. On line 1041, Route 47 Bridge demo and the alternate 4A access. We are hoping to get it about half of it in fiscal year 22, $900,000, and then the second part in FY 23, $900,000 more. If you recall, there's an endangered species, and we cannot do any tree removal during a certain time of year. And I think that's April to September or something thereabouts.
Those bats.
Bats.
That makes them work in the bad weather.
So we are anticipating Norfolk Southern Crossing Access Road tree removal in the fall of 22 and spring of 23, and River Crossing Bridge demo fall of 23 and spring of 24. So those numbers, there may be some numbers carried over to 2024, obviously. On line 1042, Center Bridge Street and then Marion Street, pavement rehabilitation. We're anticipating IDOT is sending us a final bill of about $300,000 next year.
Marion, is there striping lines going on that road?
Marion, didn't have pavement marking and it wasn't proposed other than at the intersection of Market. Yeah, there's a couple of dashes and then turn lane is designated. Sage Drive pavement rehabilitation, the engineers are about to wrap up the preliminary engineering. We may have some of that carry over to FY21, but we did budget $60,000 in the current fiscal year to do the preliminary engineering. So we anticipate actually doing the construction of Sage Drive, and that includes William Street from Market to Independence. And we're anticipating that next year for $660,000. That project has been postponed for several years due to the school's construction, the school's referendums, what the school was going to do, what they weren't going to do. So that is one of the worst roads in town is Sage Drive. Not only surface, but the traffic there at certain times of days you want to avoid. And, line 1046, somebody mentioned Livingston Street. So there's preliminary engineering of Livingston Street from Market all the way to Buchanan, and Grant Street from State Street all the way east to Greeley of $110,000 next year. While we're on motor fuel tax, if you recall, with the bridge demo being postponed and delayed, what appears for years now, I've always emphasized I don't want to go take that MFT fund under $4 million. Because if alternate 4A access cannot happen for whatever reason, the next alternate access is somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 or 3.5 million. So I've never wanted to go under 4 million in that MFT fund. When everything's said and done for fiscal year 2021, and those projects I just mentioned, and the revenues and the reserve funds in that account, we should end up somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,072,000 remaining in the MFT fund. When you project out to FY22, you'll see that we're starting the bridge demo and of Route 47. So in FY22, with some of that work being done, just shy of $1 million, that would take the fund down to $3.4 million. When you project out to FY23, and again, spending almost $1 million in finishing the bridge demo and alternate 4A access, the fund ends up at almost $2.8 million. And when you project out to FY24, the fund would be about 2.9 million, and FY25 would be about a little over $3 million. There are numerous streets in town that are in dire need of attention, and most of these are what we refer to as the sand sealed streets that are about 15 or 20 years old now, I think.
25.
25.
96.
Livingston Street, Market to Buchanan, we talked about the preliminary engineering. Grant Street from State to Greeley, we talked about the preliminary engineering. State Street from Livingston to Lone Beach. Independence Street from William to Marion. Charter Street from William to Lafayette. Charter Street from Livingston to Center. Buchanan Street, Center to Grant. And then Buchanan Street from Marion to Washington. And Main Street from Independence to Pyatt. If you total all of those up, construction and construction engineering, you have almost $5 million worth of road project. And we'll be sitting at approximately $3 million in fiscal year 2025. So trying to stay is we'll hit a lot of these roads. We may not be able to hit them all with the motor fuel tax we have at hand. But as you can see, we've taken a lot of these roads. Sage Drive is one of them. William Street is one of them. We're doing those. Marion Street was one of them. We've done both legs of Marion Street. Independence Street was another one. We've done that. Bridge Street, all the way out to the jurisdictional transfer across 72. We've done that one. We've done a lot of work on all these roads. We still have a lot of work to do. But we're not putting them off. We're not kicking the can down the road on these roads. We've made a valiant effort to address the current infrastructure. That's all I have on motor fuel tax. Any questions? Okay.
I have a question that doesn't, on Bond Street, why is that street still have so much gravel on it? You know, like, it seems like, I don't know.
Was that on?
On oil and chip, doesn't the gravel like sink into it?
Yeah, it does to a certain extent.
Because I mean, when the snow plow, it's,
Yeah, no,
you're gonna have.
we typically wait about 6 weeks after the oil and chip's done. It gets rolled on, gets pushed out there before we sweep it up. And we've had the street sweeper out, he swept some. We'll continue to get.
Okay.
He's still out sweeping.
Yeah.
So he'll continue to pick rock at this, he's sweeping leaves up.
Oh, I didn't know.
It should get better, just give it a little bit of time. But
Okay.
It should get better. Most of the streets, I have been involved in a little bit.
I think it's fine.
It's like it's
Good.
good. But most of the other ones now, they're in pretty good shape.
Okay.
I think Bond's got a crossing with asphalt streets in the middle, or at least one intersection, maybe some. Could come back to a little bit of the issue.
Okay.
It's a lot of rock called up.
Okay.
From one. That's, I think we'll get it tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Bond Street.
Jerry, do we use, and I don't know, do we use motor fuel money to paint, stripe our streets in town? Is that motor fuel money?
We do. We have not used motor fuel tax for that.
In the past, have we contracted that with someone, or have the city guys done that?
We've done both. And Jim and Brett and I have been talking about this. We're going to be getting a quote, a price to do the square, the parking stalls. And then the rest of the truck route, Washington Street from Pyatt, at least from Pyatt Street all the way out to our jurisdiction on Monticello Road.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's a good question. We've had some complaints about that.
I have a lot of people, due to where I work, there's always somebody commenting about the condition. So not necessarily people from Monticello, actually, but the routes from.
Yeah, and that's the thermoplastic up there, and we may put a coat of pavement quality paint over it to get us through another year or two, because you can't put thermoplastic on top of thermoplastic, because the first time the snowplow goes over that, it's gone. So they have to come in and literally mill, grind the existing off, and then put new over it.
Thank you.
Yep. On page 19, tip district. You can see there's not a lot that really that jumps out here. I would say what Tim King has done, we've reflected those payments through this document, and those revisions reflected so throughout here. Economic Development Programming on line 1084. Got $30,000 in there for next year. And I'm drawing a blank. Yes. 30,000 is for the Burke Park master plan that we talked about for next year. And subway parking lot, we were not able to get to it this year for a few reasons. So I threw $50,000 in the next year's budget for the subway parking lot. And then line 1086, infrastructure improvements, that is, we are really in need to do something to get some infrastructure to the new through Arno folks down there in the old Hunman, 15 acres behind the new school bus barn. Nothing happened this year with that 500,000, so we're hoping the engineering and permits are good to go, and maybe something can happen next year. That's all I have on page 19. Page 20. Only thing, I got a couple of things to note on page 20. Obviously, you see the business district near the second half of the page with some projections out for that. Line 1131, downtown square lighting, $50,000 for next year. That's something we've talked about for a year or two now. What that would entail is above the sidewalks only, not across the street, above the sidewalks, adjacent to the courthouse square, we would have decorative lights from the face of building out to the decorative light poles, and go back and forth in a zigzag type motion just to light up the sidewalk itself. And that would be installed by the Public Works Department. And then contingency, $10,000 I'd like to have in there in case this year, if you recall, the parklets, we had the crowd control fencing, we had the planter boxes, we purchased the umbrellas. In case next year we need to do some more umbrellas, or we need to purchase some additional planter boxes, or we need to purchase some crowd control fencing, so on and so forth. I'd like to put a contingency in there of $10,000 in case something were to come up if we're still wearing these masks. And that's all I have on page 20. And that kind of wraps up.
We might entertain the parklets. I think they've been a success whether we're in COVID or not.
What's that?
Would we entertain doing the parklets even if we're not in COVID? I mean, I think they've been a really big success.
It has been, yes.
Who's storing those umbrellas? Did we give them to them or we took them back?
They're in the garage. We have a couple of things there that have warranty issues. But I'm glad to hear you like the parklets. It's the last week for them if you want to freeze and sit outside.
Nice.
But talking to the business owners, they're all pretty supportive of having them again next year. We'll see how it goes at COVID time. Hopefully we have that soon.
It's a fine line with parklet and parking.
Right.
There doesn't seem to have been too much complaining about it though this year. It's been good.
Well, very well received.
Yes.
By the businesses and patrons, yeah. If you take this document home and digest it, questions, please don't hesitate to shoot me an email, give me a call, and we'll get whatever answers to you that you need. We'll still kind of plug and chug some forecasted numbers. If anything changes from this document, I will bring it to your attention at the next council meeting or the one after that.
About 6 o'clock meeting.
I mean, this is the entire budget and
I don't see any need.
if there's any questions, if you want, there's something you want to add, let me know and we can discuss it.
Hey, I'd like to publicly thank Terry and the staff for the superb job they've done putting this budget together. I commend the council persons who showed up where they were supposed to show up. That's quite good. The process has been quite good and slick this year, so hope we can keep that going in the future. So now we're going to go back to the business items, and hopefully it won't take too long. We're having alderpersons reports. I'll start with Wendell.
The only thing I have, I guess, I want to thank the guys for finally being able to finish the alley project behind 4 walls. I know that got hung out there a long time, but I see the 4 was made and it looks good. I think that finishes them all, I guess, around the square as far as I know. But good job there. I know we're trying to do all we can on the streets. With the sweeper, I've gotten complaints. I guess other guys, I hope other guys have gotten them. It's not just me. About the amount of leaves that are left in the gutters and the fact that the gutters plug up and they don't drain and we've got water all over the corners. I try to remind the people that talk to me about it. If you own a property on a corner, please don't feel too bad about going out and trying to help some of that yourself. We just can't be everywhere at the same time, but this is an unusual year, I think, for leaves. They all came down kind of fast and dirty, and it was beautiful, but now they're all on the ground, and we've got to figure out what to do with them. So other than that, we're good to go. Thank you.
Rodney?
I'm good, thank you.
Michael?
Nothing tonight.
Thank you. Thomas?
Got nothing tonight.
Pam?
I have nothing.
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Tammy, nothing? John?
No, ma'am.
Very good. Police chief's report.
Yes, just a reminder, Saturday is Halloween, so there's trick or treating from 5 to 9. Also at the pool, that will be passing out candy from 5 to 7. I'll be there at 5 to 7 passing out candy, so join us there. Also, this last Saturday, the 24th, we did the drug take back and we collected 168.6 pounds of discarded prescription drugs. Keep them coming in.
No. Is that it, John? Thank you. Terry, you don't have anything, right?
No, I do not.
That's good, thanks. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.